Hello friends, Europe is facing a massive crisis. France and Spain are being ravaged by extreme wildfires and agriculture is being devastated by hail and drought. Meanwhile, in Germany, giants like Varta and Porsche are collapsing. But is everything really that hopeless? Let's break down the main events and find out why everything will be fine, and if it actually will be. Still friends, please give a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell right now if you know what I mean. Huge thanks to everyone who doesn't hold back. It only takes 2 seconds to do these simple things, like to support for aerodynamics. Now let's get down to business. By the way, just a reminder that the best money transfer service is TransferGo. The link is in the description. Go ahead, send money to your family and loved ones. Support them whenever you can. So, Europe. News from Europe keeps coming in, each story hotter than the last. France and Spain are up in flames. The extreme heat has taken its toll. The French Minister of the Interior, Nunes, has already stated that the area of forest fires has broken the historical record and is approaching 100,000 hectares. The most tragic situation has developed in the southwest of France. In Gironde, the fire came almost right up to the suburbs of Bordeaux, which forced the emergency evacuation of more than 140,000 people from there. It got to the point where people from the Cap Ferret Peninsula were evacuated by ferries and boats because the only land road was simply cut off by the flames. Not only local firefighters were involved in fighting the disaster, but also French military personnel plus aircraft from neighboring European Union countries. But the blaze still isn't letting up. In Gironde alone, 19,000 hectares have burned, dozens of houses have been destroyed, and more than 40 rescuers have been injured. Unfortunately, there have also been casualties among emergency personnel. The fire truck crew was killed while putting out the fire in Gironde. In sunny Spain, things are no better. There are fires raging between Madrid and Avila. Already 15,000 hectares have burned and evacuation and restrictions have affected 63,000 people. Tragically, people, including tourists, have died from fire and smoke in the country's south. The smoke has reached the Spanish capital itself, so residents of Madrid are, as usual, advised to keep their windows shut and avoid exercising outdoors. It must be said, a separate and extremely grim topic is the overall impact of the abnormal heat on people's health. The mortality statistics for this summer paint a frankly frightening picture. In France alone, during just a couple of weeks of extreme heat, doctors recorded 5,700 excess deaths, with the overwhelming majority of the victims being elderly people. In Spain, thousands have been affected by heat strokes and related complications. Well, friends, I have to say, let's not forget, it's still summer, August is still ahead, and meteorologists are already warning that a new heat wave is expected starting July 29. In certain regions, thermometers will once again confidently surpass the 40 degrees Celsius mark, which means it will be hot in every sense, and the emergency services definitely won't be able to relax. I saw the weather forecast. Temperatures reach 45 degrees. How do people in sunny Seville live there? Yeah, especially since there's no sea there. Alright, let's move on to Germany. Some pretty grim news is also coming out of Germany. The German automotive industry and its related technology sector are experiencing the strongest shakeup in recent years. Legends of German business have been hit, including the famous battery brand Varta and the iconic sports car manufacturer Porsche. Let's probably start with the batteries because the bankruptcy of Varta is the end of a story that lasted 139 years. This is a legendary battery manufacturer, and now things are heading into the final stretch, and this ending is extremely sad. On July 24, the district court in Stuttgart officially confirmed receiving 4 filings from the company for self-administered insolvency. The reason is simple and harsh: the company simply ran out of money. Investors, namely the automotive giant Porsche and the Austrian businessman Michael Theuner, simply refused to inject fresh funds into the sinking business. Now the company, I repeat, whose history spans almost 140 years and began back in the 19th century, is experiencing its second major bankruptcy. In the early 2000s, Varta managed to recover thanks to compact button batteries for wireless headphones like, for example, Apple AirPods. Yes, and in 2021, which was not that long ago, their revenue reached almost €1 billion. But total dependence on Apple orders and the aggressive push from Asian competitors took their toll. In 2022, sales dropped by 47% and the stock value plummeted. Now creditors, including Deutsche Bank and several hedge funds, intend to break up the company and sell it off in parts. One of the investors wants to take the profitable household battery division, and Theuner is eyeing the microbatteries for hearing aids. But this thing will remain relevant for a very long time. The legendary brand essentially is ceasing to exist in its familiar form. That's the news, friends. I should visit Germany sometime. I haven't been to Munich, but I want to avoid Oktoberfest since accommodation is pricey and I dislike drunk crowds. I'd much rather quietly enjoy a beer there. If you want to go to Munich, comment and we'll meet. Next, a large-scale purge at Porsche threatens 10,000 jobs. So if you thought everything was great at Porsche, that they just saved money on Varta, I have to disappoint you. There are just as many problems at the Stuttgart company. Not long ago, Porsche was considered the main cash cow and profit engine for the entire Volkswagen group. However, record sales drops in China, new customs duties, and frankly disastrous and extremely costly experiments with electric vehicles have turned this profitable giant into a troubled asset. The company's margin has dropped from comfortable double digits to a modest 1.1. As a result, the Porsche Supervisory Board approved another tough restructuring package, as they call it. The new CEO, Michael Light, has decided to return the brand to its roots, cut down the bloated model lineup, and focus exclusively on the expensive high-profit segment, like the classic segment, meaning the 911 model and all sorts of premium SUVs. As always, it's the working class, the ordinary employees, who will pay for the management's mistakes. Journalists from Manager Magazine and Bild report that the company is preparing for mass layoffs. Previously, they had already agreed on 3,900 layoffs. Yes, 3,900. Plus 500 positions were eliminated due to the closure of subsidiaries, and an additional 5,000 to 6,000 positions are being added to that. In total, up to 10,000 jobs could be cut. In the end, here's what we have. The German industrial giant is falling apart. Yes, the old business models that relied on the endless Chinese market and a smooth transition to electrification have crashed into reality. And the German automotive industry will have to deal with these consequences for a very long time. So friends, let's keep an eye on how things develop. If you're watching from Germany, please like and comment on how you're doing and your mood. I'm not saying that with any gloating. I'm just interested in how people are doing. By the way, I'll also share some news about Italy at the end, so make sure to watch the video until the end. So what's next? While one part of Europe was burning from forest fires, a series of powerful storms swept through Central and Western Europe, mainly France, Germany, and Switzerland, from July 10th to 17th, convective storms. You can Google what convective means. The International Insurance Agency of the UN has already published a preliminary report. The total damage to infrastructure, vehicles, and agriculture exceeds 1 billion euros. The reason is the so-called blocking anticyclone, which trapped hot, humid air over the region. The result is hail the size of a fist, hurricane-force winds, and localized flooding. In Germany alone, according to some agricultural insurance company, I forgot the name, hail damaged more than 100,000 hectares of farmland. That means damage worth 50 million euros. In France, the storm destroyed residential areas, warehouses, and farms in the departments of Gironde and Charente. Yeah, that's how things are. But friends, let me tell you, hail is only half the trouble. The other half of the European agricultural sector was suffering. It was suffering from catastrophic soil dehydration. An international group of scientists released a report. Record heat is literally sucking the moisture out of the ground. And the result for the European Union's food security, well, looks rather pessimistic. The Euro region will lose about 9 million tons of grain in total. These are big numbers. France is expecting the worst corn harvest in the last 50 years, and the wheat harvest overall has dropped to one of the lowest levels in 2 decades. In southeastern Europe and in the Pyrenees, due to the drying up of water reservoirs, farmers are forced to slaughter livestock early and write off huge areas of corn and sunflower fields. The atmosphere has literally dried up, turning developed European agriculture, let's say, at this moment into a survival testing ground. What else, my friends, caught my attention? The cherry on top of this socioeconomic cake is the industrial crisis. It's too early to call it systemic, but there are certain trends. While American and Asian manufacturers are still getting gas and electricity at more or less reasonable rates, European chemical and metallurgical industries continue to struggle. European basic chemical producers, including giants like BASF, are being forced to introduce temporary price surcharges of up to 30% or simply mothball capacity. High energy costs cause inflation, making fertilizers, metals, and building materials more expensive, which raises the prices of final products. Businesses have only one solution: to move their factories to the US or Asia. Yes, just the other day. Yes. Now we're moving on to Italy. Just the other day in Italy. Мы сейчас переходим к Италии. Буквально на днях a high-profile scandal broke out involving cats. By the way, leave a like if you love cats. And forest fires. The essence of what happened, a terrible tactic used by arsonists. The Civil Protection Service and law enforcement agencies in Italy, specifically we're talking about the regions of Calabria and Sicily, have launched an investigation into the cruel actions of the perpetrators. What are these bad people doing? The arsonists? They tie cloth soaked in flammable substances to the animals' tails. They set them on fire and release the cats into the forests and fields to spread the sources of ignition. That's how crazy these people are. I didn't mean to offend dogs in this passage. Reaction and investigation. Authorities called these acts barbaric and a sign of utter madness. Animal protection groups have contacted the prosecutor's office and offered a reward for information leading to the perpetrator's capture and prosecution. Well, honestly, we're in shock because, damn, in Calabria, the cats are already pretty battered by life as it is. We call them bandito because they're all so tired, not like in Greece or Turkey, where people really love cats. In Calabria, well, not so much. There are a lot of stray cats and they're pretty worn out by life. Ah, well, friends. Despite all this doom and gloom with forest fires, the financial decline of legendary car giants, and the severe agricultural crisis, I believe that everything will definitely be all right. Europe, throughout its centuries-long history, has gone through even worse things, survived all kinds of climate anomalies, and recovered from even deeper economic downturns. The human factor and technology will do their job. Firefighters and the military will eventually put out even the fiercest flames. New engineering solutions and young, flexible companies will replace bankrupt Varta and Porsche. Farmers will adjust their logistics and adapt their crops to the new climate. Any crisis is not only the destruction of the old, but also a powerful kickstart for transformation, so don't panic. Emergency services are working, the economy is being restructured, and after any abnormal heat, refreshing rains will inevitably come. So friends, everything will be fine. That's it. Thank you very much for your attention. Leave likes and write comments. Greetings to the working class. Truck drivers, computer guys, turners, mechanics, milling machine operators, warehouse workers, and so on. Write the city where you watched until the end. It's important. For example, Denchik watched from Barcelona, Brindisi, and Brussels. Where are you watching from? That's all. That's it for now. See you next time.